Good afternoon. I'm sorry we keep taking these vacations, but we're back and here we are. We're trying to finish up this little section at the beginning of Mark 7 dealing with the Pharisees and all their rules and all their rules and all their rules. How y'all doing today? Not meaning to sound like Wendy. Whatever happened to Wendy? Where is she? What was her last name? Wendy Williams. Oh my goodness. So it was like spring, real true springtime. And then all of a sudden, this little heat thing came at a time where I'm just mentally, physically exhausted. How you all been doing? It's the middle of June. I can't believe it. I cannot believe it's the middle of June. I remember I went and got watermelons. I don't know if I've been with you since then. But I was at the commissary, and I was like, something must be wrong with those watermelons. How can watermelons be out this early? And then, ding, 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 I realized that we were in the middle of June. 4th of July is less than 2 weeks away. And you know, after the 4th of July, here comes this Labor Day, the next holiday. And then Halloween candy is already out in the stores, and then we're looking at the cold weather again. I just love looking at my garden, and it's just, the flowers are in full bloom. I should zoom around and let you see. It's just such a nice view. But today we're going to be quick, just because time is getting away from me. A lot has been going on. I have to do a separate video on what's been going on with Dallas. I'm almost committed to do just a check-in and update on Mondays, which are not Mondays, but Wednesdays, which are officially my day off, which never happens to be the case. Yesterday was Wednesday, my official day off, and I didn't get in until almost midnight. Really nice function at the French Embassy for the Bell Academy students. Really, really talented kids. They had a silent auction to help with scholarship funds, and they had one auction piece was Tennis Anyone, and it's the professional tennis coach for Shitwell Friends. And so you get a lesson. Started out at $130. So I actually won that. So I'm excited about that. I have until this time next year to use it. So we'll go see what he has to say about my stroking. I don't know if I told you I was in a tournament last weekend in a final that I did not win. I was in a semifinal maybe 3 weeks prior to that. Lost against the #1 seed. Just got to get my act together. We've moved our headquarters. Big to do. After having that 75,000 square feet be my home for the last 12 years. We're moving on up the road to Elkridge. We'll talk about that a lot later. But that was just, moving is just, I couldn't imagine taking all of my stuff out of here. But doing it for the office was just as arduous, and that's why I probably missed you a couple of times, but we're back on track now and feeling like a burden has been lifted off of me. So where are we? Today we are in Mark 7, verses 9 through 13. And in your caption, I have there, let me remember what I have there, is that nothing that keeps us from being kind, loving, and helpful to our neighbor can be of God. There is no rule, there is no regulation, there is no law, there is no commandment that is not going to allow that to be the case. And so in this particular passage, we're dealing with the Pharisees and lots of their rules and regulations, and Jesus puts them to the test once again. So this is like the third piece of a series that we've talked about over the last 2 months or so that I've been trying to get through this. Some exciting stuff coming up with Jesus and some healing later on in this chapter. But here we go. Mark 7, 9 through 13. He said to them, "All too well you reject the commandment of God, that you keep your tradition. For Moses said, 'Honor your father and your mother, and he who curses father or mother, let him be put to death.'" Woo! But you say, if a man says to his father or mother, whatever profit you might have received from it is Corban, that is, a gift from God, then you no longer let him do anything for his father or his mother, making the word of God of no effect through your traditions, which you have handed down. And many such things do you do. And many such things that you do. So all of the commandments are important, but Jesus is emphasizing this one commandment of honoring your mother and your father, because as many of you probably know, that is the commandment which you get something in return, so to speak, that's articulated, because we get something in return for all of the commandments. When we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, we get the return of God's blessing on our life. But for that one, honor your mother and your father, that your days here may be longer on earth. And so, again, it's going through one of their silly traditions of the fact that you honor your mother and your father. So if your mother and your father are in need, and you'll have to provide for them, whatever that need may be, physical, financial, whatever. And so in this particular time, some of the Pharisees, to escape from having a particular burden or just any burden placed upon them for responsibility for their parents, they would start to donate what they call a Corban of their income finances. And that Corban was considered to be a gift to God. So if it's a gift to God, then it would be a dishonor to God for it not to be given. So you just kind of like say, you know what, I'm allocating this part of my inheritance or my belongings to the Church of Christ. And so if my brother or my sister comes along and they want to have a part of this, you say, you can't do that because that's already donated to the Church of Christ. And in that particular time, it was something that was donated to the altar of God, etc., etc. But it came down to the bottom line is whether they're your parents or not, it's the commandment that is like the main commandment, the number one commandment, to love the Lord your God with all your heart, your mind, and your strength. And another commandment which is like that. Commandment number 2 is that you love your neighbor as yourself. And so I only want to spend a couple of seconds on this because this whole beginning of chapter 7, and it's too bad we've been interrupted here or there because it follows a pattern. And that pattern is when we get down to religion being religion, where we're just so concerned about the tradition of a religion in and of itself, we've gotten to a point where we want Christianity without Christ. We want heaven and no hell, basically. We want to do these things that have, we want to call ourselves children of God without having a relationship with God. And so no matter how you spin it or what it looks like, you can always boil it back down and trace it to these basic principles. What is God to you? How is that exemplified in your life? What is your neighbor to you? How is that exemplified in your life? And that's the telltale sign. That is how we determine the character of people. Sometimes you go where I always tell people, when I take people with me on the trail, I can tell a lot about that person by the behavior of the animals. The deer they're not going anywhere when they feel your energy and your spirit is calm and soothing. When they go running and doubting, that's because it's something that they're feeling a negative vibe about you. And it's the same thing with children. It's the same thing with pets. They have this instinctive ability to be able to discern that which is unsettling, so to speak. That's not to say that dogs aren't supposed to bark at you or anything, but you can tell a lot when you go around people and you see things. And so some of these practices that the Pharisees and the Sadducees had established and come up with were basically things to keep them in this little bubble, because how many people are going to be that strict? How many people are going to follow 1,000,001 commands with 1,000,001 specifics to those commands? It's a small elect group, and that was their purpose, to be the small elect group, to be the group that you can't be a part of because you can't do these things that we do. And that's pretty much who they were, and that's how they determined themselves to be supposedly the men and women of God when they were so far from it. And thank God that we had Jesus that came in the form of fully God and fully man, to be able to call them out on that so that we have something to glean from in the Word of God. We have His teachings about these type of religious aristocrats, so to speak, and we still see that today in the 21st century. We see it all the time. You go into churches, all these certain people can sit here. I mean, just all these rules and things, which are fine sometimes if you need those kinds of things to keep some level of decency and order. But when it comes to a point that if someone has to go against that, I mean, is it the end of everything? It's just, my MO for the last 5 years. Ain't nothing that serious, and if we keep that attitude and just kind of move, and at the end of the day, what is that serious is what's that important. The only thing that's important is how people come away from you in terms of how you've treated them. And that's the thing that we need to focus on. So we've gotten that out of the way. We just really kind of want to get through this little portion of 7. And I guess my lack of tolerance or patience with this particular part of Scripture is that it's so, to me, it's so simple and it's so as a matter of fact. But yet, it is one of the biggest hurdles that we have today. And that's how folks treat one another. I love Pastor Streeter always says, folks, his grandmother told him, folks ain't got to be nice to you. But when they're nice to you, the least that you can do is say thank you. And I think as I move through life, especially here lately, I am just amazed at the lack of ingratitude of people. I've always said I felt like that was the worst sin, is our ingratitude. The sin of ingratitude, especially towards our God, that everything is more important than our worship for God, our time that we spend with God. And when I say, we want Christianity without Christ, we want God's blessings without a relationship with God. And that's what I'm talking about, because, people, it just, on your time here lately. Oh my God, I just left you last night. You want me to be on some Zoom meeting first thing in the morning? No, you don't own that much of me. And that tells you how people spend their lives, because if this is happening consistently, when are you carving out that time to be with God? When are you carving out that time where you are totally disconnected? Whether you're spending that time with God or not, but just being disconnected from the world and all of its things and stuff. And that says a lot, because that tells you that you're something's going on that's not good, because we are in this world, but we're not of this world. So we have to be clear on that. And the more time that we spend where the world is monopolizing our thoughts and just our quiet moments, then the further you're getting away from what Christ wants us to do and how He wants us to look, because they're diametrically opposed to one another. The world is about themselves. The world is, what can I do for myself? And this false belief that I can't help you if I can't help it's just stuff that's just not what we believe. And so we have to get back to that, and we have to be reminded of that. And that comes from spending time with God, the living Word of God, wanting to hear the preached Word, wanting to study the Word, wanting to meditate on the Word. When you get to a point where that's beginning to dominate your life, all the other things are going to fall into place nicely. Okay, so talk about this warm surge of weather that we just had, and just, feeling good and doing things that are good for you. So here's citrus. I wanted to actually make some raw hummus, but I didn't have time to go out and get the fresh parsley and cilantro, which is so crazy because I have some in the garden. I could have just picked some. Oh my goodness. See, I've not had time to be in my own little space here lately. So, but I did have citrus, oranges and grapefruits and lemons that were sitting out. A part of as we're teaching you how to be holistically well, taking care of our spiritual side, our mental side, our physical side, we're always suggesting these ways to transition into healthier lifestyle practices. And so when I go to the supermarket, I usually get as much fruit as I can. Get a big bag of grapefruits, oranges, tangerines. You know, I was in the store a couple weeks ago, and I heard the girl, you know, if I go over to Trader Joe's, there's more students in there than anyone else. You know, everything is in bags. And so the girl says, "You think we'll eat all? You think we'll eat all of those?" And it was 2 of them. And so I had a bag and everything else. And so things like this, when you get a bag of tangerines, you really should just grab 3 every morning and throw them in your bag. So you have 1 while you're driving somewhere, 1 when you get somewhere, or, you know, or all 3 at a time. Because especially in the summertime, it's really good to do mono diets where you're going to have 2 or 3 apples or 2 or 3 oranges, you know, and then that way it really flushes the system out nicely. So you do that. I've got, can't see from there, but in the windowsill, there are 12 pears. Because when I got them, I ate one, it was hard as a rock. You don't want to eat food that's hard like that, fruit. That means it's not ripe. So I let it sit, then I probably let it sit too long, so they've been sitting in the window, and that's what you want. You want them to start turning red. And so what I'll do is, because now they're a little softer than I want them to be, is after I'm done with you, I'll put some water in here, and I'll chop them up, and I'll make some pear juice, and probably put a couple of apples in there. So I'll have a table with a bowl of grapefruits, oranges, lemons, apples. I'll try to eat 2 or 3 apples a day. That's very easy. After I do my morning workout, I'll just, you know, chomp down on that before I shower. Keep the citrus fruit really good for just kind of giving you a little boost of energy in between the day. Throughout things. So if you have a busy schedule and things have been crazy here the last couple of weeks, you know, it kind of sits there longer than it needs to, because with the citrus stuff, I typically won't just eat this. So what I'll do is I'll make a citrus drink, you know, once or twice a day. And so I didn't have a chance to do that, and it's starting to get a little softer than I'd like them to be. So here we are. This is what we're doing today. And why? Because citrus is so good for you. So citrus family, lemons and oranges and grapefruits are all like brothers and sisters. So that's going to do well on the system together. So we're going to simply do here's a citrus detox. The reason I call it a citrus detox is because of citrus acid in it. It is very good for pulling stuff. And so to help you remember this, or to think about why that's applicable, is think about when you're cleaning your kitchen. You know, I keep lemon essential oil. You can just put a couple of drops in water and put, you know, maybe a little peppermint and lavender in there if you want to smell, you want to keep ants away. And you wipe down the countertops with that. Why? Because it's, you know, lemons naturally are like antiseptic in terms of their qualities. And so that's cleansing. That's good for you. And the grapefruits and the lemons and oranges are all in the same family, so they all do that. So we want to go in and just clear up some of that sludge in our system, the gastrointestinal tract. And lemons are yellow, so they're natural laxatives, one, but more importantly, it's associated with the liver. So you know you have different colors that go with your organs and glands. So the lemon, yellow, whenever I think of liver, I think of yellow dock, the herb yellow dock, which is excellent for healing the liver. You just want to keep your liver as healthy as possible because it takes care of some 2,800 functions in the body. And so lemons are one of the best things for making sure that you keep your liver as healthy as possible. And we usually do that by drinking fresh lemon water every day. What does that look like? It looks like 1 lemon with the juice extracted from it, squeeze it, put it on a machine, whatever you want to do, and put that into room temperature. Actually a little warmer than room temperature, not boiling water by any stretch, but warm water with fresh lemon juice is excellent to drink every single morning upon waking, just to maintain the integrity of your liver health. Grapefruits, especially red, ruby red, you know, whenever you have different things, the darker the color, the better. So a ruby red grapefruit, it's going to be better for you than a white grapefruit. But their medicinal properties are super. And then the orange itself. Orange foods are great for the skin. They have lots of beta carotene in them, so you want to do twice as much of that because it's always difficult to be able to transfer all of that vitamin D to beta carotene. So here's what we do. This is so simple. That's another reason I wanted to do this. So we're going to take, on average, a 2-to-1 ratio. So if we're going to use 2 grapefruits, we're going to have at least, so it's 4-to-2. 4 oranges, 2 grapefruits, because the oranges are smaller, and 1 lemon. So that's our 4-to-2-to-1. So what we're going to do, what I am doing, trying to make this fast now, when the citrus gets a little softer, it's a little more complicated to pull them apart. I don't know where my gloves are, but it's always good to do this. If you've just been doing yard work, it's going to really clean your hands, but if you haven't been doing yard work, it's going to make your fingers kind of tight because of all of the acid. So what we're going to do is just pull these apart right quick. And why are we doing that? Because we want to keep as much of the pulp on as possible. We definitely want to include the seeds, both of which, the pulp and the seeds, they have good quality to it because of how the nutrients eventually settle in that area. So see, these are in good shape because they're very easy to pull apart. Sometimes you get the citrus that the skin is really tight. Now what we aren't going to do is when we do citrus detox, which is grapefruits, lemons, oranges, and some type of sweetener or not. You can use either a maple syrup, an agave, a raw honey. I also have in my maple syrup container, that's actually blackstrap molasses. There's my problem, is with the oranges. The skin is a little bit more of a challenge to pull off. But again, very simple. The more of the pulp that you use, the better. What we don't want to do is the same principle for the lemons. For the lemons, you simply want to extract the juice from the lemon. The lemon pulp is very bitter. And so it can really throw your drink way off. Remember that when you're doing apple, lemon, ginger drinks. I use a little lemon in most things. My carrot juice. I bet I put too much. Doesn't that look like I put too much water in there? Yep. That's a great thing about doing live video. And that's a great thing about practicing along with me, is because you live and learn. And I should have known better. But we'll fix that in a quick minute here. Just want to get this first batch of 2 grapefruits. I think I peeled more than 4 oranges. But it doesn't matter. I have a huge summer drinking container that I'm going to put as much of this in as possible because I wanted to just empty this basket of citrus stuff. So I'm going to get a new batch pretty soon. So we're going to eventually make all of this. But you know, even as I'm talking to you, say if you were engaging with a friend on the phone, you could already be dressed to go to work or whatever. I didn't even have to put my apron on. It's not really that messy. And isn't that wonderful when you can do life like this and not have to worry about that? Let me find a container here. I'm going to have to take some of this water out of here just so that I don't feel like a mess. And then you have to think about what you're juicing. So I picked up a watermelon the other week. Watermelon is 98% water, so you don't need that much water. Typically you use the water to get the apples going in the blender, but citrus has a lot of pulp, which has juice on its own. Okay. All right. Maybe we have to turn it on. So, when you're mixing anything, I'm going to turn it back on in a minute. It's a little loud with the fan going on. So when you're mixing something with, whether it's raw honey, it's real raw honey, it's got a little consistency, viscosity to it, and the agave is a little looser. Now, this is blackstrap molasses, which is very thick. So when you're doing that for a drink, you want to get it blended first. Then you take the top off of your blender and allow it to be poured in as the blender is generating, or else this kind of messes up your blade. You don't want to run this. Maybe we'll go with some agaves today. So notice I put all of that in there because I'm going to blend all of this. But remember I said I'm going to put it into this large container. So you won't have to do that again. Now this is a lemon. We're going to use probably half of this. I'll do the same thing. I won't necessarily blend it with this batch. I'll blend it with the next batch. Just so that I make it easy. So then this way I can put this right into the refrigerator and make it nice and cool, or not. You could also blend up a batch and pour it into ice cube trays and put the ice cubes into the blender, into the freezer, and then go out in your garden and pick some fresh mint and put that into either this container or into the container with the ice cubes. And it makes a fabulous drink for a warm day, for your friends that come by to sit with you on the deck. So you see how simple that was? We're going to do these right quick. And I'll just chat with you for a moment about some things that you can be considering as we're in these warm months. And so as I had mentioned, you want to go definitely as often as humanly possible for the rest of the season is to get you as many watermelons that have seeds as you can. When you're buying your watermelon, you want to get a watermelon that when you flip it over on the bottom side, there's a considerable yellow spot. That means that it's good, it's ready, and that it has sat in the field for the appropriate time after it was ripened. Some people thump it. They taught you to thump it, but if you don't know what you're listening for, that's an exercise in fertility. So just look for the green watermelon that has a big yellow spot that has kind of flattened out on the bottom of the watermelon, and you'll probably be pretty good. Most times you won't get a bad watermelon. I don't know. It depends. If it comes from the right southern place, most times you'll get a good watermelon. But that will guarantee you it's nothing like a good, really good watermelon. And you take the watermelon, you clean it up with a lemon rind, and then you take some parts of the rind and put it into the blender along with the flesh, lots of the pulp, and all of the black seeds. Don't ever buy a seedless watermelon or seedless grapes or seedless, now they're making seedless lemons and all kinds of stuff. It's just not what you want to do. That thing fills up really quick. This citrus fruit is kind of heavy in that sense of, see how the container keeps getting more water in it than I want it to have. We're almost done. So watermelon juice is something that if one watermelon, a medium-sized watermelon, will net you a good gallon and a half of watermelon juice that you make in your blender. And drinking 1 to 2 quarts of that a day will be excellent. If you want to really do a detox or a fast, then you can drink the watermelon juice over 2 days along with consuming as much watermelon as you can. So take half of your watermelon, chop it up, and put it into small containers to eat, and then drink the rest of the watermelon. Almost done. I want to just get this out of my way. That's why I'm having you indulge me for a moment if you don't mind. So what else have we been up to? So we've switched homes. We left Capitol Heights and moved on up to Howard County. We have our fundraiser kits. Shout out to East Washington Heights Scholarship Committee that got the True Popcorn fundraiser kits where you can make $20 per unit. You have to get a minimum of 60 units, and we'll deliver those to you. We have started some talks with some corporations about possibly an acquisition of True Pop Popcorn. We have our WOP, our Wellness on Purpose kit, celebrating my 25 years in business. We've had several people that have gotten theirs already. That includes all of our books, including the ebook, which is one of my favorites. Lots of videos and just a really nice ebook. Good information on how to detoxify the body. Pour half of this out into the container. I'm going to pour the amount of lemon juice I think we need. Actually, I'm going to put most of this in there because what I'm going to do is I'm going to get another bottle of agave, which I have outdoors. Blend because you want to keep as much of the pulp intact. It's good for the system. It gives you something to swirl around in your mouth when you're drinking. And how about that? Look at that. Just that little bit of work for that much citrus detox. Like I said, what we're going to do is sit this into the refrigerator. We're probably going to add some fresh mint from the garden. We're going to add some more agave, and then we're good. And so I've got some friends competing in a tennis tournament this weekend. I'm going to be watching, so I'll probably be sitting out in the hot sun all day, Saturday and Sunday. So I will probably have this nice and chilled for myself, put it in some half-gallon containers, and just chill out on some citrus detox for the entire weekend. Maybe get some of this fat stomach down. My dad. Not that I'm blaming all this on him. But my dad we were supposed to bring him home on Monday, doing some work at his house, and ran into some plumbing issues, and the plumber came and had to cut a hole in the ceiling. You just don't want someone to come home to that when they've been away from their home for 4 months. So moved his discharge to Monday, this coming Monday, less than a week. And he was so upset. He was so ready to come home. So ready to come home. Bless his little heart. Went and sat with him out on the patio at the center half of yesterday. So that's good. There was something else that I wanted to mention that is going on. I can't remember. That's all good. So I hope this has been helpful. One of those things that we can do is that we're talking about nothing that is going to be adversary to being kind, helpful, or loving to your neighbor could possibly be a rule of God. So in doing that, how about we share some information? Everything that I just showed you how to do, just why don't you go over to your neighbor's house and show them how to put this together? especially one that you don't really necessarily fellowship with. I mean, these are things, everybody loves food. Everybody loves health information. I've been going to a lot of events, social things here lately, and you just can't get out the door. Because people will ask you, you know, did you just come from vacation? Why is your skin shining? Like, that's so funny when people say that, because I just look and I'm like, and all of our skin shine. So you start talking, I usually just say, I eat a lot of fruits. And so when you're doing that and you tell people, it's just amazing how little information, things that I definitely probably take for granted, that everybody knows, you know, eat oranges and your skin's going to look great. Especially throw some carrots in there every now and then, carrot juice and then orange juice. Because orange foods are good for the skin. You guys know that. Orange foods are good for the skin. Green foods clean the blood. Red foods move the blood. But people don't know that. And so to start having these conversations with people that are multi-billionaires, you just wonder, can you take your head out of one of those business financial books for a minute and just get some common information? And so you would think you were just dropping some real seeds of wisdom, business wisdom into their mind, and you're not. But that tells you how much people don't feel good in this country. We're doing these things. The grass, I tell people all the time, the grass looks greener on the other side. You get over there and it's astroturf. I don't care what people are doing. People want to feel good, feel better. And if you have an opportunity to speak to them and you sound like you know what you're talking about, you'll have their undivided attention. So that's one way that you can get to become friends or better friends. And then you can start, after you start telling them a little stuff like this, you can do the same thing that I do. Try to slide it in there together with the gospel. And before you know it, you're evangelizing. And that's what really is going to have God pleased with you. So there you have it. And then for those of you who do have gardens, this is the best food that you can give your garden, is citrus compost. Alrighty, I hope that's been good. I was going to do 2 videos this week, but I still think that, the reason that we had originally decided to come every other week is that it can be a lot of information. It wasn't too bad today, but it can be a lot of information. It can be overwhelming. We don't want to overwhelm you. We want to make you feel better as much as possible. So we will be back. I will be back in 2 weeks for sure, and then we'll get back on track and we'll stay on track. I hope you are having a great summer thus far. I guess the next time I see you, we'll be heading quickly. Well, we won't be that close to the 4th of July, but we'll be kind of winding down on June. So take care of yourselves. Be kind to yourselves. Take a moment and come off the grid and spend some time with God on a daily basis. Shalom.